Thank you very much, Sawadee-ka. My name's Steve Landman. I'm CEO and founder of Q Global. And Q Global is actually a company that's focused on digitalization of the SME and financial institutions. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. Does anyone know the difference between digitalization, and digital transformation? Does anyone know? So I'll get into that in a little bit. My background quickly, it's not so quick because I'm a little older, is that I was lucky enough to work at a startup 33 years ago called Oracle Corporation. And what's interesting is I had no idea what Oracle did. I actually liked the name, so I accepted the position, and that was 33 years ago. And little did I know that I would be involved in digital transformation and a lot of change in technology over the years, over the 33 years. And when I first worked at Oracle, I really had no idea what a database was, let alone what a relational database was. But to see where technology has gone and how it's changed lives and business has been pretty incredible. So after I left Oracle, I was again very lucky to be in San Francisco during the first .com. And so I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to learn from some of the best people at Stanford, Apple, Google, and some other places. And so Q is actually my 16th company that I founded in technology. And I've started companies all the way from credit card processing in 1994. In 1995, I actually had the first incubator in San Francisco. So when we talk about incubation, it's a lot different today than it was in 1994, 95. Today, it's an accelerator. In 94, 95, it was more about creating ideas and innovation, creating companies and solutions, and then building companies and teams around those ideas that you had. So it's a lot different today. I hear the word incubation quite often, but it's very different today than what it was. I was also one of the first to have an e-commerce site that was focused on the Hispanic community in the United States. In 1996, I actually created a company, a software company, that allowed people to access data on a mobile phone. It was a Nokia phone with a monochrome screen, but you could actually still work. So we had large corporations using our technology to access data anywhere in the world. I was also involved in cybersecurity. After cybersecurity, I got into healthcare, digitalization of healthcare. I built healthcare clinics around the world, so 13 countries that I have healthcare clinics in, and then streamlining and digitalizing those processes and that data. And so 13 years ago, I ended up in Vietnam, and I built healthcare clinics in Vietnam. So I've been living in Hanoi now the last 13 years. Funny enough, my first visit to Thailand was in 1994 for my honeymoon, so Thailand has a very special place in my heart. It's interesting to hear the comparison between Vietnam and Thailand, honestly. I don't think Vietnam's any further ahead than you guys, so you guys should be very proud. I think that there's a lot of, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of marketing and a lot of hype around Vietnam's startup community and innovation. But I don't see Thailand any less innovative than Vietnam. But quickly, so 6 years ago, oops, not working. Yeah, this isn't working. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So like I said, Q is a technology platform. So we digitalize SMEs and banks, and we connect them. Q started 6 years ago as an Asian Development Bank project. And Asian Development Bank had asked me, how can we help SMEs in the Mekong region? And I interviewed about 600 farmers, MSMEs, and SMEs in the region, and identified their problems. And almost everyone needed access to capital. And so how could we get capital to the SME and the MSME? Through digitalization. And so this is my 16th company, so it took a long time, a lot of thinking. Do I actually want to build another company? Do I want to go through all the pain and heartache that I've done before? But I decided to do it. And so we built a platform that is similar to Oracle, ERP, and SAP, but a fraction of the cost and much easier to use. And then we connect it to credit scoring. So you can actually ask for a loan, and we extract data from an accounting ERP system, and then our partner banks will actually lend to them. So now we're actually in 7 countries through the region. Q means bridge. It's a digital bridge. So again, we bridge SMEs and MSMEs to financial institutions. For me, it's really about the social impact, like how can we help SMEs and the communities that the SMEs are in, and the employees, and grow the community and see everyone prosper. So we're really trying to disrupt what SAP, Oracle, and even QuickBooks and Xero and the other ones have by offering low-cost solutions and easy-to-use solutions. Some of our partners, ADB, a lot of the banks, IFC, they support us as well. So a short history of digitization and digitalization and digital transformation. I think that when we talk about technology and digitalization, we forget the most important part, and that's the human. We really lose sight of the human when we talk about technology. And so if we look back in time, you know, Intel in 71, Apple in 76, mobile phones came in 79, and as you can see, it's changed a lot. Some history, 200 years ago, it took 6 months for a letter to go from Australia to a family in England. 6 months, it's a long time. 50 years ago, airmail changed the way we send postage. We cut down delivery times to a few days. And every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. Every day. So 4000 BC, there was tablets of Mesopotamia going back to 3500 BC, a long time, were used to record early writings of mankind. But today, in 2015, we have so much data to do that. So the amount of data we have is way more. And that's when we start talking about digitization and not digitalization or digital transformation. Because digitization is actually taking data and digitizing that data. So we don't want to confuse the terminology. Bits and bytes, a lot of bits and bytes. So global IP traffic has surpassed zettabytes, or 1,024 exabytes. That threshold was in 2016. And the 2 zettabytes threshold was in 2019. So we have so much data and so much digitization going on. And content delivery networks carried over half of the internet traffic by 2019. So much data and so much digitization. A lot. So over half of all the IP traffic originated with non-PC devices, and that was in 2019. Smartphones, tablets, watches. And the number of devices connected to IP networks is 3 times the global as high as the global population in 2019. It's incredible amounts of data, of digitization, of content, of business data, of personal data. Video highlights. We're all watching video now. We don't read so much anymore. But it would take an individual over 5 million years to watch the amount of video that's over the IP networks. 5 million years is a long time. So consumer traffic is doubled by 2020. It'll be 80% of all the consumer internet traffic. And globally, mobile data traffic has increased tenfold between 2014 and 2019. So we have this huge convergence of data, the data tsunami. So what led the digital era? Business to business originally. So like I said, going back to my days at Oracle, going back to when I started that software company that allowed corporations to access data on phones, and then going to the consumer and eBay and PayPal and Google and Facebook and everyone else, businesses started to digitize and digitalize, and then digital transformation. So again, when we talk about digitization, we talk about taking written data, maybe it's spreadsheets, taking written data and making them into spreadsheets or some other form of data that's been handwritten or hand created and digitizing that data. And so a project that I did in 1994 with the US Navy, we took all the health records of the US Navy and we digitized those records from old legacy systems into more coherent, standardized technology, more current technology and standardized data so we could access it anywhere in the world. And then we went business to consumer, and then business to consumer. So a lot of the digital transformation that we've had hasn't really been supported by humans or focused on humans, which is really important in the journey of digital transformation, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But in the E, everything was .com, and then I, internet, cloud is everything as a service, and then digital everything is where we are today. Everything's digital. Digital-related jobs has changed a lot, right? From digital marketing managers, which is a very important job these days. We talk about data scientists. The demand for data scientists is extreme. Search engine marketers. So even the positions that in the jobs that are available in the space have changed incredibly since 1994, 1988 when I started in internet and in technology. So we hear about people being put out of business by technology. My belief is that people are going to have to be retrained. People are going to have to learn new skills in order to keep up with the change that we have in technology that's so rapid and so quick. So some challenges, right? Structured data sources, the consolidations, background unstructured data proliferating your laptops and desktops and mobile phones and watches and everywhere else. Unsecured data, cyber attacks. So security is very important, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But universities and enterprises started collecting data for reporting with BI and analytics. But it's all over the place. It's in different sources, it's in different databases. Compliance, data retention, research. A lot of challenges with all the data we have. Personal data. So big data, we look at PayPal in 2014 with 170 million users and 4 billion transactions. That's digitalization of processes, right? Unstructured data, fragmented in either spaces all over the place. Again, unstructured data. Compliance, policies, regulatory issues, life cycle management, classification, security, cybersecurity, all big challenges that we have when we talk about digital transformation today. Types of cybersecurity. So email, there's a whole list of challenges we have, right? And how do we really help protect the people and the businesses that are using technologies today that are not so secure, actually? How can we do that? Who can do that? What are the processes involved? We actually lose a lot of money because of cyber attacks. So information's changing, and so are the risks. We spoke of on landlines before, less challenges actually. Now it's mobile and video, right? We wrote letters, now we're in social media, Instagram, Facebook. Business is done in person originally, and now it's all online. Filing cabinets or folders, and now it's cloud. Most of it was one-on-one, now it's many-to-many. So big challenges when we talk about digitalization and digitization. So how do we define digital transformation? So digital transformation really, again, comes down to humans and process. And so I've been digitizing and digitalizing and working with companies and businesses and people for many years in digital transformation. And again, I think we really leave out the most important part, and it's the human. We leave out the human. How can we help the human transform themselves in order to fit into this digital world that we live in? And it's not only about digitalizing processes and digitizing data, it's about the human element of it. and how can they adapt, and how can we help them succeed in digitalization. So we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I think about one use case of when we were digitizing the US Navy. And the commanders were wanting the digital transformation to happen, but it was really difficult to get older people, people who hadn't used technology, and this is 1996, just so you know, really difficult to get people to be able to adapt to changing processes, using technologies, and changing the way they work. And I think it's because a lot of organizations at the top say we're going digital, or we're going to implement new technologies, or we're going to try technologies that we haven't tried, or we've tried before but we failed, and we're going to try it again. So it's always top down, but no one really helps and empowers the people who end up using the technology. And so the impact of digital transformation is that the good of it is that there's collaboration, right? It's easier to collaborate on projects. We can use like Google Drive, or we can use systems that allow us to work together at the same time. Communication's way better. I was actually sitting in the front row, and my daughter, who's now in California, was messaging me on Facebook Messenger. And she said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm about to speak." She's like, "What are you speaking about?" And I said, "Digital transformation." She's like, "Why are you speaking about digital transformation?" And it was a good question. But I can communicate with her wherever I am in the world at any time. That's pretty amazing. But at the same time, I'm pretty exposed, right? And so the processes and the rules and the policies by which we use technology really needs to be defined, and who uses it, how they use it, and what's the benefit, right? Platforms of mobility, it's fantastic. I actually almost never go to the office, actually. I can work from anywhere. I could be on the beach. I could be at my home. I can work from my phone anytime. And so mobility is a beautiful thing because I can be anywhere and be productive. But again, I have to get all of my team to believe that this is the right way to work, it's a productive way to work, and it's a safe way to work. Personalization. So I'll talk about my perceived competitors, SAP and Oracle. One of the things that I think that they haven't done well is the experience of using an SAP and Oracle to digitize the business is still very form-driven. It doesn't really take an effect me as a human being and how I work and how I want to interact with the system. And if we make people use technology a certain way, they're not going to use it, or if they use it, it's not going to be used efficiently, effectively, and productively. So another use case, again, is healthcare. And so I've been on many panels in the past with doctors and hospitals and technology companies about, do we build technology and make doctors use the technology the way we built it, or do we see how the doctor works and make the technology work around the workflow of the doctor? And healthcare is really interesting because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with patients in front of you, medical instruments, pharmacy, all connected to one platform. But I don't think we can expect a doctor to change the way he's been working after being a doctor for 30 years. So I think technology companies, we really missed the mark about creating platforms and technology that fit the way people actually work and do their jobs. And so when we talk about digital transformation, at least in my company Q, in our company Q, training is a big part of it, but we also need to understand the humans, the person that we're working with and we're transforming. Because if we don't understand their behavior, what makes them excited, what doesn't make them excited, and how we can help them do their job more effectively and efficiently, digital transformation will fail. And digital transformation, honestly, for the most part, fails. I've seen it fail in so many big companies as well as small companies, because again, we leave out the people. And they're the most important part of it. So we really need to build technologies that are flexible enough usable enough, the experience is similar to what people use on a daily basis, like things like Facebook or Line or Instagram or whatever people are using today, and make it almost gamified so that they actually input data and use the technology effectively. And they feel like they're part of a community that's actually has a common goal. And I think I've done so many large implementations and small implementations of technology in my life, and every time I've seen we leave out the people and the way they want to work and the way we can make their lives easier using technology. And so another quick story is that here in Thailand, at Q Thailand, we actually built Q Academy. So at our office, we actually have a small university, fits about 200 people. So any of the companies that were digitalizing or helping with digital transformation, they actually come into Q Academy here in Bangkok. And we not only teach them about the technology, but we get to have interactive experiences with them so we understand how the technology can help them, how it's going to make it more difficult for them, and how we can fit the technology around their life so it becomes easier for them and their job gets done more effectively. They're not at work for long hours, and they can actually spend more time with their family. So information, digital rights and information rights management. So documents, how are document repositories being used? How is data being used? How's it being shared? How can we touch our customers even better using the information that we have and use it for marketing? So I think we talk about technology, and I think it's so big, and I think everyone has this vision of the way we think technology should be used within companies and corporations and even as individuals. And I think that we really missed the mark, because I think, companies like Facebook and Google, we think we're having a great experience, but the reality is that it's not a great experience, because we've left out the human element of communication, and we've left out the human element of connection, which is really important. So at Q, we really try to get close to the people that we work with, not necessarily the corporation, because that's usually a top-down mandate that the company is going to go digital. But we really want to understand how is the accounting clerk doing their job, and how can we help them do their job more effectively and efficiently, but at the same time not see digitalization as an impediment or more challenging. Or, when I worked in hospitals, for instance, the nurses were like, I'm never going to use that technology. I don't get paid enough. Even though the heads of the hospitals are saying, you have to use new technology. But they didn't want to use it because they found it very difficult. They found that they weren't paid to use it, that they were probably going to have to work very late hours to learn how to use it and put data into it. So again, at Q Academy here in Thailand, Bangkok, we really try to figure out on an individual basis how we can help them succeed in their digital journey. It's not about the corporation as a whole, because if the individual isn't succeeding, the corporation will never succeed. Analytics. I personally think analytics is the most important part of it for management, but it's not the most important part for the person who's actually using the technology for data input. They're just putting in data, and they really don't care what the end result is. But analytics is super important. I can look on my phone at different bar graphs and different pie charts and see data reports of what's going on across all of our countries that we operate in. We're in 7 countries. I can see who's succeeding, who's under generating revenue, whose costs are high. I don't have to be at my desktop, and it's beautiful that I get that to my phone. But again, if we're not empowering the people who are actually using the technology at the ground level, we're failing. We're failing because all that data being entered is useless to us because they really aren't doing their job effectively, I'm sure. 3D printing, another big digital transformation. It allows us to model quickly. It allows us to even build homes now. It allows us to build prosthetic legs. So it's very interesting that we can actually have outputs like that. But again, we're talking about transformation, and how do we get people to accept using these new technologies in order to help the broader sense of good? IoT. IoT is really, it's been around a long time. You know, we talk about AI, we talk about IoT. I mean, I remember seeing AI in 1989 at Oracle. It's more affordable now. I saw IoT in the Napa Valley where they were using it for the grape farm. So they could actually do soil samples. This must be like 30 years ago. Soil samples, moisture samples, sugar content samples. But the technology's got less expensive now. And so we can use things like IoT to help with a lot of our data collection. I think there's, again, good and bad about IoT. When you're implementing IoT, is it really the best use case, or are you using the technology just because you think it's cool technology and maybe will look good and make our company look shiny and successful? I see a lot of these technologies that actually probably aren't required in a lot of cases, but people use them because they're supposedly the sexy technologies. But again, we're not looking at the impact that it causes to the people using these systems. Ease of access to services. Definitely things are easier, but definitely our data is much more exposed about ourselves and our customers. You know, customer data is exposed. But it allows like internal organizations like human resources, for instance, to help have portals for employees to do, you know, some of the routine employee HR type of management stuff that needs to be done. I've seen so many times where companies implement these technologies like an HR portal, but they never teach the employees how to use them. Like SAP, I think SAP, Oracle, again, my old employer and my competitor from the past, and even now, about 40% of those platforms actually get used. Excuse me. For me, that's sad, because if I'm going to spend the money to build technology and do the R&D and not really understand the human element of it, and they're only using 40% of the technology I built, I think that's a travesty. And so again, with Q, I took a different approach. Let's really see what the need is of the enterprise and build around the needs. So again, we did focus groups all the time. But ease of access to services is a fantastic opportunity, but does the enterprise really need it? Is the employee going to use it? Is the customer going to use it? I can't tell you how many times I've started companies or even built technologies that were fantastic to me, but never got used. And I think that's a big mistake, and I think we have to, again, really focus. My friend Moses is actually doing human-centered design right now. And in the US, in Silicon Valley, we've gone from like lean, from being focused on lean, to human-centered design. Because if we're building technologies that no one's going to use, then we've wasted energy, time, and money. So again, it's really important to keep the human in the middle of our design and usability and the user interface. And so ease of access to service is fantastic if we listen to our customers. It could be internal customers or external customers. Cloud, big data. I found cloud and big data a really interesting topic because I've seen cloud and big data since 1989 and 90. We're just repackaging some of the same technology. So we've actually software as a service, managed services. Sure, we have virtual machines. We had virtual machines then too, but cloud and big data, I think that we forced everyone to go to cloud and have big data, but we haven't really communicated to the people who are using cloud and big data about the benefits and the challenges. And you hear about companies like Experian, for instance, who put all of our personal data in the cloud only to be hacked, and all of our data is gone. But that's never really communicated to the individual. What I also find interesting about things like cloud and big data is that, at least in my case, because I'm from Silicon Valley, I put so much of my information in the cloud, And then I woke up one day and realized that all my information was there. No one told me where all my information was going. And then one day we woke up and it's all there. Excuse me. So I think it's really important when we're talking about cloud and big data, what are the repercussions to our customers, to our employees, and do we really need to look at the security protocols? Because I can tell you that our own customers, thank you, our own customers at Q, they don't ask those questions. But I make sure that as a corporation, as a company, that we actually inform our customers. Because I find data to be the most important thing I have and the most important thing that my customers have and my employees. So we make sure that people understand cloud, that people understand the repercussions of it, the security. Otherwise, it's reckless. I think it's actually reckless. Video collaboration in virtual rooms, fantastic way to communicate. I think it's actually one of the good. I was the CEO of Q Thailand. I had a meeting with him this morning, and he said he's getting tired of traveling all over the place. And I said, why do you travel? Why do you not use video collaboration or virtual rooms? He said, people want to see me face to face. And I said, I agree. In some cases, you have to go face to face. But I think today's world, I think it's okay to use video and to collaborate through video. So again, it's about the human and changing human behavior. It's about creating awareness and showing people the benefits and showing people the challenges and the issues that are associated with going digital. Flexibility, just-in-time learning, and online courses. I think they're fantastic. I think one of the biggest issues is that most people don't want to sit through long videos and watch them and learn. Because again, no one really cared about the people that are the end user of those videos and online courses. So it's really important that you actually, when you're creating courses for people to digitally transform, that maybe they're 5 minutes, maybe they're 10 minutes long at a time, because people's attention spans are a lot less than they used to be. I was on a plane recently with a woman who's in charge of marketing for Can Nas magazine. And she said, people's attention span now is about 10 seconds because we're bombarded with so many videos. And her job as a digital marketing person is incredibly challenging because 10 seconds is not very much to tell a customer about what you're offering them. But again, knowing that people's attention span is like 10 or 20 seconds and have them see online courses that are hours long or even 10 minutes long is a long time. So we really have to break down things when we're teaching and doing online courses, especially in technology. Location identifiers, fantastic. I can see where my packages are at any given time. I can trace food from, fish farm to table. One of our clients, for instance, is a company in Vietnam where we trace fish feed, processing all the way to table. So it's great that we have technologies for traceability around food safety. FAQs and self-service, again, really good, but I think it's got to be broken down into small bites or people will not be able to absorb it. I can't emphasize enough that we really don't focus on the end user and the people using these systems for the most part when we're talking about deployments in large corporations or small SMEs. We really take that for granted that because we have it, people will use it. The reality is they don't use it. So we're not empowering those people to do a better job, to learn more. The bad. Going back to, again, it's antisocial. I don't even think my children can speak English anymore because they rarely pick up the phone anymore and call anybody. There's no more social connection. There's no human contact. Even in our own company, we don't have meetings so much anymore, which is okay in a way because I don't think meetings are ultimately so productive. But no one's even talking to each other. My staff is incredible, and they're very productive, and they're using the technology that we're selling. But I go into the office in Hanoi, and no one's talking to each other, and I ask, are we in the library? And it's because everyone's chatting through Google Chat or one of the different other mechanisms for communication internally, and we've lost that human connection. And it's going further away. And to me, that's really sad. And the worst thing about it is I'm equally responsible for it because I've been in this industry and I've wanted to transform this industry, but maybe I wasn't so responsible. Maybe that I've actually made it more difficult for human beings to coexist, and for me that's sad. Information overload, even inside corporation, and even information being data or personal information, we're overloaded. You know, our brains are chemically changing, right, because of the amount of data that we're getting. Excuse me. Loss of good analytical skills. I use Android phone frequently, and actually Android understands my voice incredibly well. So I can ask Android almost anything, and it answers me. So I can only imagine what my children and employees, you know, in generations from now, they're not going to have to think. There's going to be no more analytical skills. It's incredibly sad to me what we've done, and I'm responsible for it. Because I didn't think about the repercussions of the technology that I was building 20 years ago, 25 years ago, because it was just about building technology and selling it and having people use it, but not thinking about the long-term effect, or how does it affect the people within my company, or the companies that I'm selling my products to. Privacy and security implications, gigantic. So a company I started in 1998 was the first company that did packet sniffing appliances. So any data going in and out of a network could actually be sniffed, and we could actually see what the data was, who was trying to attack our network. That company I sold to Hewlett-Packard 9 years ago. But again, when we're working with corporations and we're doing digital transformation, privacy is a big issue. I mean, thank goodness we haven't had attacks in Q yet, and people are grabbing people's data. But we have had issues around security. And so we're all constantly having to focus on cybersecurity and improving our technology so that there can't be cyber attacks and hackers. And when we're going through the digital transformation stage, it's really important to look at security. I mean, billions and trillions of dollars are lost as a result of hacking and cybersecurity attacks. The ugly, e-waste. So when we work with corporations and they ask about hardware or software and batteries and all of that, I try to make sure that my team and the people that work for me and the people that are helping these large enterprises or medium-sized and SMEs go through digital transformation, that we're not creating huge amounts of e-waste. You know, you go into a lot of enterprises, IBM, Oracle, all my friends, you know, they go in to do large digital transformation projects and they basically tell everyone to throw out everything they have. It's only because they want to sell more, which makes sense to me, but the reality is they don't need to. If you're using current technologies, you don't need to throw all of that out. It's also really sad to me that there's an inequality in access to the internet and digitalization. And we're a multi-country company. Q is a multi-country company. And you know, in Myanmar, for instance, access to the internet for our clients is so much lower. So when we're working with SMEs, they don't have the same opportunity as they would maybe in Thailand or somewhere else. And so we also have to modify technologies so that you can work offline and online. And so the ugly truth is that there just really isn't connectivity everywhere. And so if you're a global or multinational company and you're trying to do business all over the world, it's a big thing, it's a big element to take into consideration when you're talking about digital transformation. I spoke about building healthcare clinics in Africa, and part of what we did is we built technology to transform healthcare in many countries. I built I was a healthcare delivering company. I wasn't a technology company at that point. But we realized that the technologies that we built, the technologies that were available in the market did not fit developing countries. So I decided we would build technology. And we built technology, and we realized that the clinics that we had that were in faraway locations from Nairobi, for instance, in Kenya, they had very poor connectivity. So we wanted to perform this digital transformation project across all of Kenya, but the reality is we really couldn't because the internet wasn't available and connectivity wasn't there and basic communication wasn't there. So the trends that started in 2015 that shape the way that we live our lives today and we do business and we provide technologies for digital transformation is more video streaming, short forms of YouTube, video calling. You know, I'm a fanatic of Zoom, for instance. So when we look at processes and people, do people want to be using technology like Zoom or Skype to be able to perform their businesses? I can tell you that even in healthcare, we talk about telemedicine. I've been working in telemedicine 25 years, I think, maybe longer. It hasn't taken off. Telemedicine hasn't taken off. Because again, we forgot about the human part of it. The humans actually want to be touched and felt like there was some connection when they're being treated for healthcare. So when we look at technologies and we talk about digital transformation and we don't look at human behavior, we're making a huge mistake. Even in the most mundane processed companies, we still need to look at the human. You know, Netflix, internet, all of those great new video things that we get to use. Again, most people write, even my own company, we were really focused on long training videos. One of the things that really quickly, what I try to do is I empower my staff to make decisions and try things, and hopefully they fail because they'll learn from their failures. Where I come from, failure is okay. I'm okay with failure. So we try to empower our employees and our staff to try new things. And so when we came up with our first versions of video training, and they were half hours long and an hour long, and they showed them to me, I was like, no one's ever going to watch these. No one's ever going to watch these. I wouldn't watch an hour-long training video. So I made them go back and actually cut them down into 3-minute and 5-minute videos. So it's great that we have these technologies that are disrupting the way we live our lives, but unless we really understand how people want to use those technologies and how they want to learn and how they want to be empowered in order to do a better job, in order for better performance in the company, we're missing the mark. File sharing, P2P and web-based file sharing systems, another great tool. I mean, I'm using them all day, every day. I think that while it's very disruptive, I think that there needs to be policy when we're talking about digital transformation within an organization, how we use those technologies. Because if we share those files with the outside world, there's a hole into our data that maybe we don't know that those people got in there. Web, email, and data, including social media. Email's dying. In many ways, right? Most of my communication, unfortunately, is through WhatsApp and Line and some of the other messaging apps. I feel like my life is completely inundated or full of messaging apps. For me, I'm trying to get rid of messaging apps because I think they're not a disruption, they're a distraction to my life. But they're very useful tools if you need them quickly. IoT, I find, again, very fascinating. I think we're in the beginning of IoT, and again, when we're talking about digital transformation and how does IoT fit into our business, our employees, that really needs to be defined. We can't just use IoT just because it's the latest, greatest technology. Healthcare, I've been using IoT in healthcare for quite a long time. The reality is we implemented it and no one really used the IoT devices that we implemented. IT workforce plan. It's really important to understand the stakeholders in digital transformation. It's a cultural change. It's a behavior change. I think, again, I can't say it enough. I think we really forget about the people when we're doing digital transformation. It's some head of IT or someone in finance who says that we need to deploy this system. but no one ever talked to the people at the bottom who are doing the day-to-day tasks, and how can it help their lives, and how can they have more time for families. Non-Microsoft devices and cyber criminals will be forcing onto. We've seen it already. In Apple, for instance, people are actually attacking Apple products and servers now. Encryption of data has become standard and default. Now we're talking about things like crypto and distributed ledgers. Secure, but now we're already seeing people hack into distributing ledgers and changing the encryptions in those. So we really need to stay ahead of it when we're talking about disruption and the trends and security. This has been going on for a long time, since 2015. But we really need to work faster, especially through digital transformation. Mobile, so hackable now. Before it was pretty secure. So when we're talking about deploying technologies for digital transformation, we need to make sure that those devices are secure. In a lot of cases, the biggest culprit of hacking or access to unwanted people in our data is actually end users. So using things like finger technology to sign in devices. When a company is going through digital transformation, they really need to identify the devices that they want to use and look at security protocols and IP addresses. Otherwise, your data is in jeopardy. I mean, BlackBerry did a good job of that a long time ago, and that's why everyone used it. Bundling frameworks and services. I work with a lot of banks. I love banks because they think they're digitally transforming. They throw out digital transformation this, digital transformation that. They're not really digitally transforming the banks and the financial institutions. I haven't really found one bank that actually is digitally transformed, because you can't change processes that quickly. You can't change long legacy systems and processes that you've used for decades and expect people who have worked in these institutions for a long time to also change. So you also see in banks that they're using many different systems that are almost glued together. That's not digital transformation. Digital transformation is extremely different. It's a long journey, and most banks can't do it well because they're so stuck in their legacy systems. Biometrics will be targeted. Some of the technology that we have is eKYC. We're using verification, facial recognition, biometrics. We're even seeing now that that's not even so secure any longer, and you can't even verify individuals. So when you talk about what technologies you're going to use through your digital transformation journey, you really need to look at the technologies that are available today and where they'll be tomorrow. Everyone talks about crypto and Bitcoin and distributed ledgers and quantum computing. We're not going to see these same technologies in 5 and 10 years. So you really need to be prepared in your digital transformation that you're ready not only for today, but you're definitely ready for tomorrow, because it changes so quickly. Even fingerprints, I've seen, do I have a slide? Yeah. I've even seen fingerprints being hacked now. It used to be a great identifier, but no longer is it. They're actually being hacked now. So again, when I talk about the people and the maturity of a company when they're going through the digital journey, these, I think, are really important parts of that journey. Your culture. Is there a risk appetite? Because I guarantee there's going to be failure, and there's going to be a lot of failure in digital transformation within an enterprise. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be a lot of learning. But if they're willing to, and the management's willing to spend a lot of money, a lot of energy, and get the people in the company around this journey, and they have a risk appetite, they'll be able to do it. It means about having collaboration, external collaboration, internal collaboration, having people work together. Okay, thank you. Strategy, linking the business strategy, the short, the long term, making it center around customer needs, customers, internal customers being your employees, your external customers, obviously the people that are paying you, Capabilities, what are the capabilities of the organization, from connectivity to automation, content, data, security, organization and talent, so important. Again, I'm not going to stop emphasizing the importance of the individuals in the organization when you're doing your digital journey and your digital transformation. It's the one part of the journey that's completely forgotten, I think. So why do you need to go and digitally transform? Usually customer demands. Again, we're so used to having everything on demand. Great companies like Uber, and I get everything I want. Amazon, I can order something in San Francisco, I get it in 2 hours. So I think customer demands are so high now. So the reason for digital transformation is that we need to help our customers get what they want when they need it very quickly. So we also want them to have a very positive experience. A lot of the technologies were not designed, again, around the human. It's technology designed and built for technology's sake. And again, Moses is teaching customer-centric design, which is really important. Lean's old for us. We really look at the customer being in the middle and how do we design technology and applications around the customer. Process orientation, positive digital experiences within the workplace. So I've been talking about that all along. How do we do our jobs on a daily basis? The way that we help implement and understand our clients is we actually do what's called the day in the life of the accountant or the day in the life of the IT person. So we really sit down with those people and we see from the minute they walk into the office and they turn on their computer or their laptop, how are they doing their job? What are they doing? How can we make those processes easier through digital transformation and the digital journey? Innovations, so digitizing current business models in order to make it more innovative the way they're doing things. Some of the things that we do at Q, for instance, is we're a client of ours in the Philippines, we're doing digital bakeries, 13,000 digital bakeries. So everything that they sell, they weigh, everything that goes through barcode scanners, and that way the distributors and the producers know exactly what to make in real time. So a lot of those processes and business models we've actually digitized or digitalized. And the way that we're successful is we look at process. We look at all, like I said, the process of the lowest common denominator, the person at the bottom of the hierarchy. How are they doing their job? What are their processes? How does it affect the upstream processes and the data getting to the management so they can make good decisions? Being prepared. So making sure that everyone's on board. It can't just be the CEO or the chairman banging his chest saying, we're going to go digital, or we're going to change, or we're going to do a digital transformation. There has to be buy-in from everyone. Price is very important. ROI studies, is the investment really going to give us the return that we're looking for, is a really important element. Potential risks, not potential risk, it should just say risk, because there's always risk and there's always failure, and you have to be able to identify the obvious ones up front, but also be prepared for those risks that you don't see. Timelines, and again, I put people last because I think we save the best for last, so we have to really focus on the people, as I've said all along. So when we look at process, set expectations, quit your unrealistic expectations. Digital transformation is not a one-time project, it's a journey that's going to go on forever. Preparation, map all of your processes, create short and long-term plans to guide your organization, your vendors, your customers, before even implementing a system. Get all the stakeholders around and get them all ready for what you're going to actually embark on this journey. Price, not all that is expensive is effective. In my case, I don't think SAP and Oracle are so effective. I think there's better solutions and easier ways to do it. It's not cheap. Digital transformation is not cheap. There's going to be failure, there's going to be lost money, there's going to be fired people, there's going to be people quitting. It's not cheap. Risks, project timeline, it's a journey. Like everyone wants to, basically they think you're going to install a system like Q and you're going to flip a switch and everything's going to work well and it's going to work perfectly. Never. I've never seen it work. People, digital's a mindset about people. I can't say it enough. We need to focus on the people. You can't get caught satisfying everyone's functionality needs. You're never going to hit the mark 100%. Even in our own company, when we go into customers, we're hoping that we get to at least 70%. 70% success rate is actually very high. So thank you. So I started off by asking everyone the difference between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation is. And so I hope that walking you guys through this journey, which is my journey from starting from the last 33 years till it is today, that you see that digitization is just digitizing documents and information. And digitalization is actually using digital tools to make your life easier, better, and have connection. But digital transformation is really about people. It's not about technology. It's making sure that everyone agrees and is part of that journey. Otherwise, digital transformation will fail. And companies will fail like they already are. So if you want to be successful, make sure you bring the people in your organization, your customers, and your partners into your digital journey. Thank you.